Good evening. I am here tonight to talk about the city of Hesperia. Hesperia epitomizes the boom or bust economy that was the 2000s. From 2000 to 2010, the city saw a population increase of almost 30%. At the height of the housing market, Hesperia was building almost 1,600 single-family residences a year. In 2012, they saw that number drop to 2. This has left Hesperia in a precarious situation. The population has grown, but property tax revenues have fallen. I'm here tonight to present 3 issues that Hesperia faces, with proposals for how they can fix each one of them. The biggest issue that Hesperia faces is the lack of property tax revenue. Because of California's Prop 13, there is no easy way for Hesperia to make this up. When assessed values fell by almost 50%, Hesperia lost a 50% share of their property tax revenue. When house values came back up, Prop 13 has limited the city of Hesperia to only a 2% increase each year in assessed value. So there is no easy way for Hesperia to bring this revenue back. What I propose is the city of Hesperia work with local builders and try to build new houses, but not the small tract houses that they were known for in the boom, but more along the lines of the houses that are in its neighboring Oak Hills. Some of these houses go for almost $1 million, and unfortunately the property tax revenue goes to the county because it is an unincorporated area. If the city were to focus on building bigger and better houses and drawing clientele with more money, they could start to recoup some of their property tax revenue. Although this won't be easy, there are several things the city can do. First, it can incentivize these builders. It can do this by offering an expedited permit process, an expedited plan process, or waive the fees altogether. While this may not be popular with people who already pay these fees, it is a way to get builders back to the area and get things going again. The second issue that Hesperia faces is a rise in public safety costs. Currently, the city contracts with the County of San Bernardino for both police and fire services. In 2013, the city saw an increase of almost $500,000 for police services. At the same time, they had to cut 5 sheriffs. For fire services, it got so bad they had to apply for a federal emergency management grant for $2 million just to cover their fire services. They still had to cut 9 full-time employees and shut down a fire station. Obviously, a city with a growing population cannot afford to do something like this. Additionally, this is not sustainable in the long run. You cannot continue to see increasing costs with a cut in service year after year. Eventually, you'll be left with nothing. The city right now can start to look at putting together their own police and fire departments. They've already started saving some money towards a capital service fund. Presently, they have $4.5 million set away for this. I propose that they put out a bond and try to establish their own departments. They have 2 choices for this bond. They can do a current interest bond or a CAB. While I'm not a fan of CABs, I think this might actually be a time when it will work for the city. The CAB will allow the city to pay the bond off in future times when property tax revenues are actually higher than they are right now. Obviously, they're at a disadvantage because of the way the housing market went. Either way, if they can manage to sell a bond, they can start to build their own police and fire services. Another benefit to this is by starting a new service, they will not be tied to the legacy benefit costs that many cities are currently dealing with. They will have their own officers starting anew at a new CalPERS level and not have to worry about supporting 50 years worth of firefighters or even more. Obviously, it is up to the residents of the city as to how they want to approach this bond. It's worth noting that in 2012, the city passed a water bond to do the same thing. From the time of the city's inception, they were buying water from another agency. In 2012, they passed a $30 million bond to buy their own water shares and their own wells. This was done with a long-term plan in mind of making the city self-reliable. There is no reason they can't do the same thing for police and fire. The third issue that the city deals with is unemployment. Unemployment in Hesperia is over 12%, while it is only 8% in California and down in the 6s in some of the neighboring cities. Another big problem with employment that Hesperia faces is that many of its employees drive down the hill to work, some as far as Los Angeles. Hesperia needs to look at a way to incentivize businesses to come back to Hesperia, and not just low-wage jobs. There is a Kaiser Hospital going in Victorville that will certainly bring some professional jobs back to the area, but Hesperia needs to look at how to approach lawyers, accountants, professional services, stuff like that, and get higher paying jobs back up here. That will actually help the city in several ways. First, it will bring property tax revenue back to the area. Some of these people migrate to the area to work and not have to commute. Second, when these people are working, if they're working in Hesperia, they will be spending money in Hesperia. Right now they live in Hesperia and then drive to Fontana or San Bernardino to work. They buy gas in Fontana, they buy lunch in Fontana, and the sales tax stays in Fontana. If they can bring jobs back to the area, that sales tax revenue, as well as the jobs, will stay here rather than go down the hill. All in all, I think Hesperia has done a fairly good job of weathering the storm. Not many cities can say that they grew at almost 50% at the same time that they lost 50% in revenue. But to make it last, Hesperia is going to have to figure out a way to provide sustainable services to its citizens. They cannot continue to expect to see falling services and expect people to stick around. Thank you.